on the Crystal Waters Home Comfort Plumbing and Heating Insider Hotline with TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger. Hello, Dregs.
How are you guys doing? Let's cut to the chase. Did you get that garage heater? Is that all settled?
In, brother. It is in. It went in on Tuesday, I think it was. Tuesday. Yep. It's quality. I mean, you weren't lying. It's a life changer.
It absolutely is a game changer. But now what it'll encourage you to do, if you haven't already done all of this, have never seen the inside of your garage, you got to pimp it out, man. Like that's the necessity of the garage man cave.
Yeah.
Now you just got to roll everything into that.
Interior decorating. Yeah.
It's very purpose kind of driven right now. There's cars and there's bikes that hang from the ceiling that come down, and there's storage and stuff. No, get that out.
Vehicles don't need to be in the garage. No, I get it. Bikes, they got it. You're not going to leave your bike on the driveway, but like most of us live in Canada. We can endure the weather. The vehicles are built to get rained on, snowed on, preferably not hailed on. I understand that part. But no, get an epoxy floor company to sponsor the show. Get them in there and get it done right. Everything. Trust me.
We got the floor done. It got insulated and drywalled, and we got some of the store wall, the stuff on the side for hanging your
slots,
your extension cords and all that. So we're well on our way. I'll pass it along to the woman that I live with and say, I need to pimp this out. I'll tell you, park outside so I can pimp this out.
Big sale on electronics today.
It's a huge day for a big screen. That's right.
Black Friday. Yeah.
It's meant to be. The timing is everything.
Well, you know what you do real quick. I know we want to talk hockey, but so you must have a big screen in the house somewhere that, maybe it's 3-4 years old. Mm-hmm. Maybe it needs an upgrade.
That's right.
Well, that's the one. You take the one from the house, you hang it on the wall in the garage, and the wife and the family are fully on board because now they have a new fancy TV inside the house. Love what I did.
This guy, as my buddy Cam Moon would say, the great ones make it look easy. You know what I mean? It makes nothing but perfect sense.
It does.
Well, I mean, we can get into anything, I suppose.
Don't mistake coming on with us as we want to talk hockey thing. We
don't need to do that.
Great. I need the garage built out. I like the TV ideas. We did a
feast
breast stuffed with sausage and turkey thighs yesterday. Boomer's buns are phenomenal. He made
really.
Came over, it was sensational.
Now, is that a rural prairie recipe?
It is.
Recipe?
Yeah, my grandma Malberg would make kind of
dumb question.
Tray buns, right? The only problem was yesterday. Again, it was kind of like I was saying. It was a bit of a road game. I was here at Retros. I had to go back and get the right yeast. I had the wrong size pan. So that if you use the right size pan, they snug up. They snug together, so they're nice and kind of uniform and they pull apart. So these were a little bigger, but I'm okay with the result. Yeah, the turkey breast with the thigh meat and then the Italian sausage from Bonton Meats here in town. That was incredible. The gravy was great. Retro did the stuffing. Tell them about your mashed potato recipe. You put Jack down. That's what Jack was down for the count because he had to go back for double mash.
Well, it was basically mac and cheese. You know the Boursin cheese, Dregs? I put a massive brick of that Boursin cheese into the mashed potatoes. It was phenomenal. Very, very good.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm having issues here, but I think I've corrected it. I mean, I always like to mute and then unmute, so you don't get the throat clearing and my constant coughing and all that. See, I don't know where I go with the cheese and the potatoes. Again, a bit. I have time for it. I appreciate it. I'd like to test drive it, but I'm a bit old school with that stuff. I come from a house years ago where potatoes seemed to be the last thing that any attention was paid to. Yeah. So my mom was a good cook, but the potatoes were lumpy That kind of never brought the blender out, the old hand mixer to whip them up nice.
Yeah. No, my father-in-law, he was brought up on a steady diet of meat and potatoes. It was potatoes. He said as soon as he moved out of the house, I don't know that I'm ever eating potatoes again. So if ever we're going out to eat or making dinner, there's no need for potatoes here. But yeah, it was good. Jack went back for the second helping of potatoes. It cost him about 6 hours. We did a 12-hour. We did the show yesterday here from Rhett's place, but because we were doing turkey, we were hijacking American Thanksgiving is what we were doing.
Perfect.
So we did the turkey and all of that from here, did the show, shut it down, and then we sat and watched football and did a live stream for Bon Ton Meats. Went 12 hours yesterday. Robin Regier came over for a little bit, had a little visit. Kelly Chesley used to work for the Flames. He came by, told some stories. We wrapped it up about 1 a.m. last night. It was great.
Oh, no beverages. It was very family friendly, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Thanksgiving.
Something like that. Yeah. We were very
hours.
I saw an American podcast yesterday. I don't know if it was live or whatever it was. And I think it was the Barstool group. But they were actually having a real conversation about whether or not alcohol should be consumed or is part of Thanksgiving or Christmas for that matter. And 2 of the 3 in the conversation were disgusted at the idea that there would be wine, there would be any sort of spirits involved.
Those guys?
I'm sitting there. Well, I was just like, I don't know. I guess we're all heathens and sinners and all the nonsense, but and not that I condone or advocate for this, but I've been known to crack the bottle of Grand Marnier Christmas morning pretty early.
Yeah. Well, it's probably for cooking, right? You want a little extra body for the gravy or whatever it is. You got to have the bird in early. It's just how it goes. I'll pivot. We'll get into something. We were talking about it yesterday. I know today the Avalanche go for 11 in a row.
Wild.
Wagon.
This kind of feels, I said, is this going to be like Boston a few years ago when they set that regular season record? We know how that ended in round 1, but it's their world and we're living in it right now.
Feels that way. There's some good stories around the league, particularly in the Western Conference, right? Just with the way that these teams are racking up the victories. But Colorado is apparently going to go wire to wire. And you look at that roster, and provided they can stay healthy, they've dealt with some stuff. But I'm talking about the big boys. Obviously, McKinnon and Makar. I didn't know what to expect from Gabe Landeskog coming back into the mix. But I don't think that we can underestimate the value. Just his presence, right? And when he was out for that long term, he was always around the team. But you guys know, you can be around the team, but you're not part of the team unless you're in the room and you're in the lineup. You're about to be in the lineup. And now that he's healthy, what a story he is. And it's not about the level of production. It's just about having a dude like that around. He just exudes class and presence and leadership. And I honestly, I know that sounds a little bit over the top. And how much does that mean? When you've got a thoroughbred horse like Nathan McKinnon, every once in a while you gotta pull in the reins because he gets hot. We've seen him run hot on the bench. Never afraid to spar with Jared Bednar, all of that stuff. Give his line mates an earful when they need an earful. Okay, that's all great because he produces. This guy's world class. He's a superstar. But I wonder if having Landeskog back into the mix on a full-time basis, 24 hours a day, is in part anyway, how this group just seems to be on a heater, just a flat-out heater. From the crease out, they're top-notch.
Because he runs hot, like you say, he runs hot, whether it's handling media, handling the coach, just taking some of that. Because without him,
in the dressing room,
it's awesome. McKinnon's.
It's awesome to run hot, but I'm not saying that he overdoes it. But if you can't keep up with them, that doesn't mean that you're not trying.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. Like he's an exception to the rule here a little bit. Where it's like if he's pulling on the rope too hard, a guy like Landeskog can create a little buffer for the rest of the team to go, oh, okay, we can breathe and relax, and Nate can still do his thing, but we're not getting ripped for not trying to keep up to him.
What do you think about how they've made that pivot? Because a year ago it was Rantanen, and then they lost that deal, and then you know what? Well, Necas, he's not as good. Well, maybe he is as good, and they sign him. I was a little unsure just because we heard a lot, maybe a little bit flaky, Marty Necas, but what a great spot for him to land in, and it's worked incredibly well. I didn't know it was going to go this well, at least so far, for Colorado after saying goodbye to Rantanen.
No way you could predict that was going to happen. That hasn't changed the type of player that Mikko Rantanen is, or his influence or impact with the Dallas Stars. But there was a lot of developing drama around Marty Necas too, right? His dad was chirping every once in a while, and it was just stuff that you can't have at the National Hockey League level. So I wouldn't say that tarnished Necas, but he had to find a way to make that non-distraction and focus on what he needs to be, which is what he is. I mean, this guy is just an offensive weapon. And, guys can get hungry when they're chasing a big contract. We see that on an annual basis, right? You're pending unrestricted free agents who just find a way, and then they sign the big ticket, and maybe they take their foot off the pedal a little bit. Well, Nate just hasn't done that, not even a little bit, since he got his contract extension. So, I mean, it's an excellent point, Boomer, in that, the architect of all of this is obvious, and that's management of the Colorado Avalanche. You think that was an easy call to say, you know what, Mikko, we don't have you penciled in at a $12.5 million player. We don't. And we got to keep our powder dry because we've got Cale Makar coming here. So they made a real difficult organizational pivot, right? They did. And then, they addressed their entire goaltending on the fly. Who does that?
Yeah, both guys in 2 weeks for like minimal assets and spare parts.
Yeah. And now, granted, Noodles pointed this out the other day on Overdrive. Maybe he's talked to you guys about this. We do have to remind that, so those guys come in, and it's not like the Avalanche, just absolutely lightning in a bottle in the way they went last year. And they got bounced in the first round, right? So the goaltending didn't do much for them last year. But now we're talking about certainly Wedgwood. He's legitimately in contention to be one of 3 of Canada's goalies at the Olympics in Italy.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you make organizational shifts like they made last year, you're not just obviously looking at the short-term benefits, you're looking at the long-term benefits. So they didn't expect to get bounced the way they did a year ago or less than a year ago in the playoffs, but certainly hasn't hampered them. They're not dwelling on what didn't happen. They're looking at this year and saying, no, we got this. I mean, they're top contenders statistically, obviously, but it's them and then the rest of the field for me. And that's saying a lot because there's some pretty good clubs.
It's been a crazy 10 days for the Flames. It was Wednesday of last week when Don Maloney had his intermission interview. There was an article that followed with Eric Francis where he seemed to double down, and there seemed to be a little confusion about what this front office was up to. Then we see the Craig Conroy extension drop in the last, 36, 48 hours. Just a thought on Conroy getting 2 more years beyond this year to be at the helm.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody was surprised by that. I mean, I never got the sense from anyone associated in senior management or ownership with the Calgary Flames that Conroy was in the crosshairs or in peril. I never got that sense. And I did, that management group with Conroy as general manager, I think is highly regarded by ownership. And that can change. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a results-driven business. And let's see how they go the rest of the way and what decisions are made. What is the Conroy plan, right? Because he's going to have to sell whatever direction this organization is going in the next several weeks, couple of months. He's going to have to make that determination as general manager and then be convincing to sell that to Murray Edwards. And if it is a retool or a rebuild or a renovation, whatever, then he's got to sell that. And he's got to have a timeline that ownership can go, okay, all right, okay. Our fan base is strong enough. We don't think that they're going to turn tail. When the new building opens, We think that our season ticket base is going to be solid, but we do have to give them the promise that this is going to work and that we're not going to be a decade away from playoff contention again. So, in saying that, that's a long-winded way of saying that I was not even a little bit surprised that Craig Conroy has been furnished with a contract extension. But there are some difficult decisions, as I've illustrated here, that are coming in the not too distant future, and that has to be a big part of it.
Up the road in Edmonton, it's when does the real panic set in? Because they'll be measured by how they play in the spring, but it's another ugly fall, and it's creeping closer to Christmas than we're used to.
Yeah, the panic isn't there yet. I mean, you get that from the fan base. When you pay the dollars, you can have whatever opinion you want. Right. So I respect that from a fan base. But I think that the panic overall is starting to set in a little bit. Not with the club per se, but you got to look around the conference and around the division and go, oh, like, if we're still limping and stumbling by the 40 game mark, how are we making the playoffs?
Yeah.
And when that reality becomes reality, then I think that is a different ball game for the Edmonton Oilers. Because again, and I get in trouble when I talk about Daryl Cates for some reason. I don't think that he rules with an iron fist. I think that he is like every other owner in the National Hockey League with realistic expectation. He's poured the resources into this franchise. They've gone to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. Like every other owner, he wants nothing more than to hoist that Stanley Cup, and they've come close. So as owner, he's probably asking Jeff Jackson and Stan Moman, what am I watching? Why is the same thing happening game in and game out? Why am I hearing from Chris Knobloch, the head coach, prior to the Dallas game on Tuesday, where he's talking about, well, we made some adjustments and looking forward to seeing, how the team responds with the adjustments we made. 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, it's 4-0 Dallas in the first period. Well, that didn't go so well. So, yeah, but it's not an easy fix either. It's not like Stan Bowman isn't on the phone trying to find something, but good luck trying something that is going to move the needle. Look at what the Montreal Canadiens have done in a short period of time here. They grab Texier, get that done, then reclaim Sammy Blais off waivers. Well, Ken Hughes has been looking for forwards for several months, and it's only because there are so few sellers. So there might be slight panic developing in Edmonton, but we know this team is good enough to pull themselves out of it. If they don't by game 40, then I think you're open for full-scale panic.
Is one of the big issues there lack of emotion at this point? And in a way, rightfully so, right? Like those two deep playoff runs and just finding a way to be, motivated for a game in November.
Yeah.
I feel like that has to be part of it, because we like making fun, and their losses, but when you look at the lineup, you're like, this team should be way better than what they're at. The goaltending you can question, but they should still be good enough to score their way out of a lot of problems.
Yeah,
for me, it's just an emotional or lack of emotion, and I don't even blame them for it.
No. And the goaltending takes a ton of the heat, and a lot of that's deserved. But I like what Draisaitl said after the game on Tuesday, where he's like, all right, yeah, if you ask the goalies, they would say that they've got to make more saves. They've got to be better. Well, obviously, but look at the number of grade A chances that the Oilers defensively keep allowing game after game after game. These guys aren't brick walls. They do need to be better. The one thing that I've noticed, and I'm not pinning this on McDavid or Draisaitl, but they're the two best players when they're at the top of their game on the planet. And we've grown so used to seeing Connor McDavid just flip a game on its ear in a flash. And I'm not seeing that anymore. Not to say that it isn't there. Of course it's there. But I wonder how much mental fatigue there is at this point and recognizing that, look, man, I can't pick up the puck from my own goal line and go end to end every single shift. I mean, the other team is trying to. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try, but I'm not able to do it. I don't recall, it used to be every time McDavid stepped onto the ice, there was something. Like he'd force a turnover in the neutral zone and zip, zip, zip. And, it's either in the net or there's a grade A scoring chance. And we're seeing it less and less. And I wonder just how much of a toll is being absorbed there by those top end guys, just based on the fact that they can't figure it out defensively. They're just a porous group from top to bottom.
Winnipeg. I was gonna.
Yeah.
A week ago, we talked. You were heading out to talk to Connor Hellebuck, who was going to be out long term. They've not won since. I think it's 3 wins in their last 10. I know it's only November, but they're out of a playoff spot. As we look at the standings today, it cannot be. The vibes can't be great right now in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think they are. I watched that Capitals game this week, and Washington is a hit or miss team. They still have loads of talent there. Their goaltending is excellent. But Winnipeg is all of that too, right? And it just looked like, it's not like it was Eric Comrie's fault. They lost by a goal. But when you've got an elite level goaltender, they can make 2 or 3 saves over the course of a 60-minute game that an average goalie that probably doesn't, below average most definitely doesn't. That hurt you when some of the other aspects of your game aren't clicking. And I think it is the double whammy that we're seeing right now in Winnipeg. And that's why, Scott O'Neill after that game described them as being in a funk. He's starting to identify that it can't be just about Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele delivering the offense. They've got to get scoring from other lines, from other areas. But I think they're going to try as best as they can, maybe starting this afternoon, to just remove the developing narrative, because it is easy for all of us in media to go, well, I mean, you lose your goaltender, your top goaltender in Connor Hellebuck for 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, how isn't that going to negatively impact you? So Winnipeg's got to dismiss that, and they've got to do it in a hurry, because otherwise, again, some of those issues that we talked about that relate to Calgary in some degrees, Vancouver for sure, absolutely, Edmonton, they can erode a real good team like the Winnipeg Jets, and that's what I think Scott O'Neill is trying to protect from.
So I want to jump on Vancouver. I understand that they're saying veterans are available, but not Quinn Hughes.
Right.
The elephant in the room is Quinn Hughes, especially if you are shedding good players. Like, how in the world do they navigate the next season and a half before he's a free agent? Like, he's got to be in play at some point if they're as bad as they are. We saw how the extension details snag things up with Rasmus Anderson this past summer. None of that conversation comes into play before July 1. Like, what the hell are they going to do with Quinn Hughes, and where does that leave this franchise in Vancouver?
Well, my sense is that if the Vancouver Canucks can't right the ship, and some of this is out of their control. I mean, their injuries, again, I know it's an excuse, but you lose Thatcher Demko, which, they've had to deal with this historically, but, he's out for a number of games. Then Kevin Lankinen, who's a decent backup goaltender, he has to take a personal leave. So now you're into goalie 3 and goalie 4. You look at their blue line, they've got 2 young guys with just wild inexperience back there that are overwhelmed, playing way too many minutes. David Kampf was pulled off the scrap heap in Toronto. And he's playing second line center for the Vancouver Canucks. So, let's play the what if game. What if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Galvin can't bring in the pieces that are going to help this team be a playoff contender moving forward? And you do get into the second half of the regular season. Now you're closing in on the trade deadline. Do you have to have that conversation internally? When is the best time for us to go to Quinn Hughes and say, look, man, you're the captain of this franchise. Hate to put you on the spot, but you're going into the final year of your deal. you know, if you can't tell us today, prior to this season's trade deadline, that you're willing to at least consider extending, if you've made up your mind that you're not extending in Vancouver, we need to know this, because that has to be incorporated in our thinking at this trade deadline, and then obviously in the offseason. Now, you draw a bigger crowd if Quinn is legitimately in play in the offseason because of cap flexibility and all of those things. But there's also the thinking that what if a team steps up like New Jersey? I mean, we all assume he wants to play with his brothers, right? What if New Jersey goes, okay, we'll give you the assets and then some, because yeah, we're depleting our roster to some degree, but it also allows us another playoff push with one of the world's best defenders and offensive defenseman in Quinn Hughes. So they're trying to prevent that. I know Quinn Hughes is committed and invested in trying to win with the Vancouver Canucks this season. But if it's out of his control and the holes are too deep to fill, then I'm allowing those scenarios and those possibilities to come into play.
Yeah. It's not a great spot for Vancouver,
Right.
but you can you look at Colorado, you can turn a negative into a positive. It doesn't mean you just gotta, like you say, you gotta sociopath. Is that what Noodle says?
Yes.
You just have to be able to just eliminate your emotion and just make what is the best deal for that team.
Agreed.
We'll get you out of here. We do the super chat, which people can donate money to the Youth Centers of Calgary, and then we put their comment on the show. This one coming in. Sheldon Love, $22.98. It's $10. Always love tuning into the show. Love the Friday segments with Dregs and the crew. Love the talk when it comes to smokers.
Oh,
have you ever smoked a full turkey? Delicious.
No, I've never smoked a full turkey. And this is my laziness kicking in. I don't want to take the amount of time that it would take to smoke the full turkey. So I pull it apart and I smoke the thighs, I smoke the drumsticks, and I obviously smoke the turkey breast. So I deconstruct and smoke the turkey. I deep fried lots of turkeys, but I've kind of gotten away from that. So I've smoked turkey before, but not the full bird. That's an interesting one.
I feel
Takes
like
too much time.
The deep fry thing is
it's run its course.
The idea and all that is always better than the end result. So
and your home insurance kind of takes a beating too, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of great videos.
Yeah, you can go viral if you're not careful.
Hey, by the way, real quick story before you let me go here about a turkey. I every once in a while I fall into this rabbit hole, and normally it's around smoking some form of meat, but because it's the holiday season, I'm watching this video and I'm seeing these two young girls, teenage girls, about to help their parents carve a turkey. And so they look down, and the one's got her gloves on, and she's lifting up the back end of the bird, and it's roasted, it's cooked, and her face just goes white, and she looks at her sister and she's like, do you see what I see? And she grabs, and it's obviously a turducken or something like this, but the parents didn't tell these two teenage girls. And so the mom, you can hear her in the background as this girl is pulling out a chicken out of the carcass of the turkey going, oh my God, it was pregnant. And these, all you hear in the background is,
God.
I love that stuff, man.
We're
happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, fellas.
The planet is in great hands. We're in great shape. Have a great weekend, pal. Appreciate you. Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.